Welcome, everyone, to our roundtable discussion titled Redefining Masculinity, a roundtable discussion on gender norms affecting men. Today, we come together to explore and dissect the complex nature of masculinity in modern society, how it shapes the experiences of men, and the shifting perception of what it means to be masculine. Let's introduce our esteemed participants. We have Alex, a men's rights activist who advocates for the rights and issues faced by men in society. Next, Casey is with us, a sociologist specializing in gender norms, bringing a rich understanding of the social constructs at play. We're also joined by Jordan, a stay at home dad who brings his personal experience of challenging traditional male roles. Quinn is here as well, a feminist scholar, ready to provide critical insights from feminist perspectives on masculinity. Finally, we welcome River, a retired military officer whose experience will shed light on how masculinity is viewed within the military context. To begin our conversation, I would like to direct the first question to River. Considering your military background, how do you feel traditional concepts of masculinity have impacted the well-being of men in the service? And what shifts, if any, have you observed in recent times? Thank you for the introduction. Traditional concepts of masculinity have had a profound impact on men in the military, often emphasizing traits like toughness, emotional restraint, and extreme self-reliance. These expectations can undeniably aid in building resilience and a sense of camaraderie. However, they can also contribute to a stigma surrounding mental health struggles, making it difficult for service members to seek help. In recent times, I've observed a gradual but important shift in this mentality. There's a growing recognition of the need for emotional intelligence and open dialogue about mental health within the ranks. Resilience training now often includes psychological and emotional components. We're entering an era where the idea of strength is being redefined to include vulnerability, and it's crucial for the well-being of our service members. Encouraging this shift not only helps those in the service, but also reflects on society's evolving understanding of masculinity.
River's insights into the evolving nature of masculinity within the military context are a powerful testament to the broader cultural shifts we're witnessing. From a sociological perspective, the redefinition of masculinity is fundamentally about deconstructing the rigid stereotypes that have historically confined men to a narrow set of behaviors and emotional expressions. It's thrilling to see movements that champion emotional literacy, vulnerability, and a rejection of toxic traits that have long been erroneously synonymous with being a man. It's not just about dismantling old norms, but also about creating space for diverse masculine identities to flourish, be it through nurturing roles, creative expression, or collaborative leadership. These expanding definitions can alleviate the pressures men face and create healthier relationships with themselves and others. Redefining masculinity in a way that embraces empathy, cooperation, and openness paves the way for more inclusive and supportive communities for everyone, regardless of gender. Embracing this shift can lead to profound well-being improvements, not only for men, but for all members of society, as we move away from binary expectations and toward a spectrum of authentic self-expression.
I appreciate the perspectives shared so far, and I'd like to contribute by speaking from my own experience as a stay-at-home dad. Redefining masculinity isn't simply an academic or theoretical discussion for me. It's something I live out daily. There's a deep-rooted belief in society that equates masculinity with being the primary breadwinner and fixer. Breaking away from that mold by choosing to stay home and care for my children has challenged not just my own perceptions of masculinity, but those around me as well. Initially faced with skepticism or even disregard, I've seen attitudes around me change over time as I embrace this role with pride. It's not been without its emotional turbulence, but it highlights that strength is not only about physical or economic power. It's also about the courage to choose what is right for your family, even if it defies conventional gender norms. As men, we should feel empowered to pursue roles that fulfill us, whether that lies within or outside traditional gender expectations. We can be nurturing, empathetic, and emotionally available while still retaining our sense of masculinity. By living these truths, we can model for our children and society that masculinity is not defined by a single narrative, but by the integrity, love, and care we bring to our roles in life.
Thank you, Jordan, for sharing your lived experience, which resonates with many men reevaluating their place in society. As a men's rights activist, part of my advocacy is centered on the notion that the traditional script of masculinity often leaves men without the means to express themselves fully and seek support when needed. Men are disproportionately affected by issues like suicide, homelessness, and workplace fatalities, which I believe are exacerbated by restrictive gender norms. Redefining masculinity means acknowledging these disparities and addressing them not as isolated issues, but as part of a larger conversation about gender expectations that harm both men and women. We advocate for a masculinity that permits vulnerability without shame, seeks equity in parenting and domestic roles, and allows men to step away from the pressures of being the sole provider or stoic protector. By championing these changes, we're not just redefining what it means to be masculine, we're working towards a society that values men's well-being and recognizes the unique challenges they face. Ultimately, this shift can lead to more authentic and fulfilling lives for men, while also dismantling harmful stereotypes that affect everyone, regardless of gender.
Building on the rich insights shared, I'd like to highlight that redefining masculinity is an essential endeavor that aligns with feminist principles, aiming to dismantle patriarchal structures that limit both men and women. As a feminist scholar, I argue that challenging rigid gender norms is intrinsic to feminism. The expectations that society often places on men, to be stoic, dominant, and invulnerable, are oppressive and contribute to a culture that undervalues emotions, demonizes femininity, and discourages men from seeking help. This can lead to a myriad of social issues, including gender-based violence and mental health problems. By advocating for a more inclusive and flexible understanding of masculinity, we're not only permitting men the freedom to express a full range of emotions and to engage in traditionally feminine activities without stigma, but we are also promoting a culture that values consent, empathy, and equality. In redefining masculinity, we enable men to form healthier relationships and become whole, multifaceted human beings. This shift can help dismantle toxic notions of masculinity that oppress all genders and build a society where every individual can thrive. Redefining masculinity is fundamentally about embracing a vision of human experience that is rich, diverse, and liberatory.
Thank you, Quinn, for your thought-provoking insights. It's clear from our discussion that redefining masculinity is more than just changing expectations for men. It's about creating a culture where everyone is free to express themselves authentically without the constraints of outdated stereotypes. This enriches all of society by allowing for a multitude of identities and experiences to be accepted and celebrated. A redefined masculinity embraces emotional openness, vulnerability, and the equitable sharing of roles traditionally segmented by gender. It also acknowledges the individual struggles and encourages a supportive environment for all. As we conclude our discussion, let's reflect on how each of us can contribute to this cultural shift in our daily lives. If there are any final thoughts, now is the time to share. Otherwise, I would like to thank our panelists for their invaluable contributions and our audience for engaging with us on this critical topic. To continue the conversation, viewers, please comment with your thoughts, like, and subscribe for more discussions like this. Remember, this roundtable discussion was entirely AI generated, with the only human input being the topic itself. Thank you. And let's keep the conversation going about redefining masculinity to foster a more inclusive society.